Hi guys, so you join me at the Oaks today at Firsk. Lovely venue this is, a place where I come and fish winter leagues for silverfish most winters, lovely venue. So during the week before lockdown I came and fished this venue for the Silverfish Open, the last one before lockdown, and I actually drew this peg. We're on peg 11 on Alders today. Ended up winning the match with £45 of IDE. So I thought today's as good as any to run you through how I approach this venue, this lake in particular, and hopefully give you some tips along the way. Right guys, so I'm just about to kick off the swim now. Just literally feeding a few maggots at start, not many, you can see. It's always better to start off quite negative and build the swim up as the day goes on. If I were to put a full pot in now, probably won't get a bite over it. It's quite easy, the bait that I bring. I've just got leftover bait that I've had from Wednesday with me now. But I usually bring a couple of pint of maggots, pint of casters, usually more than enough. Feeding more little and often than what you are big quantities of bait. Shoot this out. Right guys, so I've literally just started, flicked a few maggots in over the top where I've cooked some, and we're into another decent fish already. Five's awesome for this 5 slip. Doing its thing. There's no rush. Take your time. Let them do what they want to do. Lovely stamp fishing here if you can get on them. Look at that. Best part of a pound, if not a bit over. Just fishing a single maggot, feeding casters and the odd maggot over the top. Leaves are a little bit of a pain, but it's what you get this time of year, you can't really help it. Just try and navigate around them. Drop the rig in. Lovely fish. Look at these fried. Decent fish. What a clunky fish that is. Look at that. So we've just gone shower. We're getting some iffy bites on the bottom. Obviously I've been loose feeding over the top, trying to draw fish into the area, and then the aim was to bring them up. I started missing a few bites and getting a few indications, which to me means that I've gone shallow. So I've just gone out, I've just had one, just gone out again. And it's all about this, when you first go shallow, it's all about finding what depth they're at. So obviously start off a bit deeper. If you're missing bites, come shallower and shallower until you start hooking fish. So at this moment in time we're just playing around with the depth, just trying to see what depth the fish are actually sat at. Hopefully we'll hook into one, or even if we miss a few bites it's still a good sign, because it shows that we're not quite deep, shallow enough yet, and the fish are actually sat below above where we're feeding and bumping into line. So that's a good sign. So we've just tucked into one. Throughout the day the fish do move up and down in the water, so you can miss quite a few bites, but it's all about taking note of what's actually happening. And if you are missing bites, there's something you can do about it, and that's usually shallowing up. If you're not getting many bites, go a bit deeper, because the fish, once they're up in the water, it's very rare that they do go back down to the bottom while you lose feeding. If I were to put a pot of bait in, that would send the fish in the area down, but it makes them a little bit harder to catch. I prefer catching them shallow. You can get them competing a bit better. And while they're competing, they're a bit easier to catch. I am feeding casters that I've found at the minute. A bronze maggot is best. Obviously if you miss a bite you don't have to worry about it being popped, whereas casters you can tend to pop. It's all about keeping the loose feed going through water, getting them competing for your bait. And as you can see, I've got a long lash as well, so the piece of line between my float and my elastic, sorry. This is because I like to swing the rig around, so rather than having the bait concentrated in one area, you can get the sneaky fish that pick off the off maggot and caster that come off at the side. They like to sit on the edges of your bait, so every now and then, if it goes a bit quiet or iffy, if you flip the rig around either past, to left or to right, you will find that you tend to pick off the odd fish, even the odd better fish to the side. But if you were to concentrate on this area, you won't get them, because it's like they know they're being fished for them. So it's all about leaving them, getting them confident, and then flicking the rig. I missed a couple of bites that time. I'm just going to literally just take an inch off, not much. Just see if I can stay in contact with the fish. Casters out, put in the area. It's a bit of a pain because the big leaf ball is literally sat where I want to fish. So I've got to try get in between them and around them. Fish will sit under them because they'll think it's a bit of cover, so it's not such a bad thing. Just a bit of a pain. But they're sat where I want to be. Also makes it a little bit harder to lay your rig in, so I like to lay the rig in, whereas with the leads being here, it's a bit more difficult. But there we go. Size of them. Sometimes you won't think there are any of these in here in winter. Tend to shut up shop and you're lucky if you catch a couple, but there's a lot, like 3 or 4 £1, that sort of size, which you tend to catch in the depths of winter. These ones sometimes shut up shop. Obviously you do catch them as well, but as it gets colder, like any venue, it gets harder. But it's all about trying to catch the odd sneaky one. As I said, you can catch them off the back of your feed or at the side of it. Like going into the ring of leaves now. Left me a little gap. Keep that bait trickling in. Lift and lay your rig to imitate the bait that's falling in. There we go. Feed a few as I hook one. Oh, just so if any fish spook in the area when you've hooked one, you soon get drawn back in when there's a bit of food involved. A bit of a nicer fish does this one. Let's go in a bit. There is a few carp and F1s in this lake, but you don't tend to catch that many. Especially in winter, this time of year we might hook the odd one. They're not massive, but they don't count in our silverfish league. There's a lovely one, isn't it? Look at that, it's a beast, is that one? Look at that. Be happy with him on any venue. See if you can catch one more, then I'll run you through the rig that I'm using. Maybe 2 more, we'll see how it's going. Get excited when we're catching fish like this. Pop it in the hole again. Normally leave it like 30 seconds maximum without moving the rig. Most of the time you get a bite or an indication before that and you strike and lift up anyway. But if I haven't had a bite or anything after 30 seconds, that's when I'll look to move or relay my rig. There we go, another fish. Like another good one. They're all good stamp fish, to be fair, that we're catching today. So now I'm going to run you through what rigs I use generally on a session and what I've set up today. So first of all, we'll start with the rig that I always start on. This is a 4x10 F1 maggot due to a 5 hybrid slip, and this is always set out tapered. Don't know if you can see me shot down there. Come back in. So this rig is set on the deck, so it's 4 foot deep out there. I like to have this one through the water. I'll start off, tip a few maggots in, go over, and then I like to ping over the top. Don't like to go much heavier than a 4x12s in winter. Obviously it all depends on conditions and depth. Today we're alright, it's flat calm, only 4 foot deep, so a 4x10s ain't gonna move. Whereas if we had a big wind and it were like, say at Holcroft where it's 7 foot deep, you'd need something a bit bigger on there to hold your float. But 90% of the time I like to fish a 4x10s or a 4x12s F1 maggot for the deck. Then I'd never be without, especially on this venue, a shallow float. I like to fish a 4x10 chanty, so this is a cane bristle as well, so it's really sensitive. Got a little strung out shot there, and as you can see, a long lash. Long lash is for flicking it around the area. That I like to fish a free slip on this, which some might think it's a bit light, but when you're hooking fish shallow, the last thing you want is them to splash on the spot where you've hooked them. You want to just hook into them, move them out of the way and ship back. Obviously if there's a lot of carp and F1s present, the free is probably not going to be very good because it's very light and it'll take you ages to get them in. Whereas I know where I'm fishing today at the Oaks, you hook them on a free, bring them round and it's perfect. Reduces hook pulls. I'll go out now and show you how we catch a fish on the shallow rig. So as I've just run you through them rigs, obviously that covers 90% of the commercial side of stuff. But you have got venues such as Holcroft, which they're quite deep venues, so obviously the rigs that I've just explained aren't really going to be adequate for them sort of venues because it's a lot deeper and it does tow. So when it comes to venues like Holcroft, you could do with fishing heavier floats, so you could fish up to like a 4x16s, 4x18s even on the long line. I like to fish them positive, so you'd fish them like bulk and 2 droppers as well as a strung out, so you'd still have the lighter float strung out, but your lighter float in this instance might be a 4x16s with a tapered shot at the bottom, and then you could have your 4x18s, just missed the bite, with a bulk and 2 droppers nailed on the bottom. So it's always worth, oh, got one. Just keeping that in mind. Obviously these rigs will suit most venues, but you've just got to be careful that the venues that you go to, if they are deep venues, make sure you're fishing correct rigs for them, so a bit heavier. The line can still be the same and the elastic maybe just a tiny bit heavier as well. Look at that, looks like it's an iceberg hide for you. And it just demonstrates it's still fish feeding shallow this time of year, even though it's cooling down. Right, so as you can see, I've picked up the waggler now. So I could carry on clattering them shallow, but the thing is that's never going to happen in a match. If you were to catch them like that in a match, you'd have well over £100, and it's just not really realistic this time of year. But what I always do, I always set up a waggler rod. This fish is just past where I've been feeding, and you tend to pick off the odd bigger fish, and it just keeps bites coming. Sometimes they don't like the pole being kept over the head. I've got a leaf. I'll just really cast back out. Yeah, so they don't like the pole waving about over their head all the time. Whereas with this you can carry on catching the fish that you are catching while resting the swim at the same time, if that makes sense, rather than having to look for them on another line. When we know they're here, they're just gone a bit iffy. Can pick up the waggler, keep catching, keep putting fish in net, give it 5-10 minutes and then pick up the pole, go back out and you'll carry on catching. It's obviously a bit more finicky than the pole because every time you miss a bite you've got to reel in, recast, a lot of twitching, very active. It's a good way of searching the peg though. There we go. Lovely fish. This is a lovely fish. I've had a lovely day. Nice fish to end on. Let's have a look at that. Got plenty of hides, some decent quality ones. Fish like this for most of the day. Let's have a look and see what we've caught. You can see I've had a lovely day. Hope you have a nice day like this again soon.